They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Chen is 70. Margaret Hayes is 65. Vincent Sal is 68. Between them, 150 years of skills, 0 years of criminal records. Tonight, they're robbing the bank that stole their pensions. The plan is perfect. The window is small. The stakes are life or death. But this is noir. And in noir, even perfect plans bleed. Chen sat in the basement of his modest house, surrounded by blueprints, security schedules, and 2 years of research. On his left, Margaret Hayes, former accountant, widow, 65 years old, reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed the numbers for the 100th time. On his right, Vincent Sal, former locksmith, grandfather of 4, 68 years old, his arthritic hands still steady enough to pick any lock in the city. Friday, 6 p.m., Arthur said, pointing to the timeline. Guards change. Shift. Vault is open for exactly 59 minutes, while the time lock resets for weekend protocols. Security cameras? Vincent asked. Loop system. I worked on the installation when I was still with the engineering firm. Arthur smiled without humor. Before Pinnacle Bank bought our company and gutted our pensions. Margaret adjusted her glasses. The money's in the B-level vault. $47 million. The exact amount they stole from 438 employees. We're not keeping it. Arthur reminded them. Unnecessary, but he said it anyway. We know, Vincent said. Anonymous deposits. Every employee who lost their pension gets it back. Robin Hood, but with walkers and hearing aids. Margaret didn't smile. If we're caught, we die in prison. At our age, 5 years might as well be life. And if we don't do this? Arthur asked. We die broke, unable to afford medicine, eating cat food, watching our grandchildren grow up, knowing we couldn't even leave them anything because the system stole illegally. Silence. Friday, Vincent said finally. 6 p.m. Friday, Margaret agreed. Arthur nodded. The golden hour. 3 days earlier, Arthur had worked for Pinnacle Bank's parent company for 42 years. Rose from junior engineer to chief systems architect. Built their security infrastructure. Every camera, every vault, every failsafe. Then the company was acquired. New management, restructuring, translation, fire everyone over 60, raid the pension fund, declare bankruptcy on the subsidiary holding the pensions, emerge debt-free, with executive bonuses, legal, documented, approved by courts. Arthur had lost $380,000. His entire retirement. Margaret lost $290,000. Had to sell her house. Vincent lost $410,000. Couldn't afford his wife's cancer treatment. She died 6 months later. All legal. The system failed us, Arthur had said when they first met at a support group for pension theft victims. So we'll fail the system. Back, the plan was elegant in its simplicity. 6 p.m., the window opens. Vincent, dressed as a janitor. He actually worked as one part-time. Now at 70, enters the bank with his cleaning cart. Hidden. Inside tools, a laptop, and a .38 revolver he hoped he'd never need. 6:05 p.m., first position. Margaret, dressed as a wealthy client, her one remaining expensive dress from her old life, enters claiming she needs to access her safety deposit box. Friday evening appointments were rare, but allowed. She had a real box, rented for this purpose. Cost her $200 she couldn't afford. 6:10 p.m., second position. Arthur, dressed in a suit, also his last good one, enters as a potential commercial client, meeting with a bank officer about a large transfer. The officer was new, wouldn't recognize him from his old firm. 6:15 p.m., guard shift change. This was the key. For 8 minutes, while old guards logged out and new guards logged in, the security station was split attention. Not empty. That would trigger alarms, but distracted. 6:16 p.m., the move. Vincent, in the basement with his cleaning, would access the Electrical panel Arthur, designed 20 years ago. A specific sequence of breakers, OFF, on, would trigger a diagnostic mode. In the vault timer, a glitch, a backdoor Arthur had built in and forgotten to document. The vault would think it was in maintenance mode, would stay open in extra 30 minutes beyond protocol. 6:17 p.m., Margaret descends, claiming she needed a larger box, her current one too small for family heirlooms. Margaret would be escorted to the B-level vault area, the one with the real money. 6:18 p.m., Vincent picks the lock. While the vault timer was glitched, Vincent would pick the secondary mechanical lock, a 1960s-era Mosseler that every modern security expert assumed was unpickable. Vincent had been picking locks for 50 years. This was his masterpiece. 6:25 p.m., Arthur creates the distraction. Upstairs, Arthur would trigger a medical emergency. Chest pains, collapse, nothing serious. He'd practiced with Margaret, a former nurse before becoming an accountant, realistic enough to pull staff attention upward while Margaret worked below. 6:27 p.m., Margaret loads. The safety deposit boxes in the B-level vault were a cover. The real target, the cash reserves vault, accessible through a maintenance corridor Vincent would unlock. Margaret would have 12 minutes to load as much as she could carry into a reinforced bag designed to look like a large purse. Not all. $47 million. That was impossible. But $500,000. Enough for dozens of families. A start. 6:39 p.m., the exit. Vincent would relock everything. Margaret would ascend with her heavy heirlooms. Arthur would recover from his episode and leave. Embarrassed, they'd meet at Arthur's house, divide the money, begin the anonymous deposits. Perfect. What could go wrong? Vincent asked. Margaret and Arthur looked at him. Everything, Arthur said, which is why we have contingencies. Friday, 5:47 p.m. Arthur sat in his car outside Pinnacle Bank, watching the entrance. His heart hammered. At 70, a heart attack wasn't something to fake casually. His phone buzzed. Margaret in position. Another buzz. Vincent ready. Arthur checked his watch. 5:58 p.m. 2 minutes. He stepped out of his car, straightened his tie, and walked toward the bank that had stolen his life. 6 p.m. The golden hour begins. Everything went according to plan. Vincent entered with his cleaning cart. The security guard, bored, underpaid, 22 years old, barely glanced at him. Margaret entered in her dress, her hair done, looking every bit the wealthy widow. The clerk smiled, checked her safety deposit box, registration, and escorted her toward the elevator. Arthur entered, briefcase in hand, and approached the new accounts desk. 6:15 p.m., guard shift change. Vincent, in the basement, found the electrical panel. His hands shook, not from nerves, but arthritis. He'd taken extra medication. Today, it helped. The breaker sequence, OFF. On, off, on. Somewhere above him, in the vault control room, a diagnostic light blinked on. The timer glitched. Maintenance mode engaged. Got it, Vincent whispered to himself. 6:17 p.m., Margaret descends. The B-level vault area was cold. Always cold. Margaret remembered that from her days working here, 40 years ago, before computers, before the theft. The escort, a young woman named Sarah, was friendly. You sure you need a bigger box? These heirlooms must be massive. Family treasures, Margaret said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. You know how it is. Sarah left her in the safety deposit room. Private, secure. Margaret waited 30 seconds, then moved to the maintenance door Vincent had told her about, the one that led to the cash reserves corridor. Vincent had unlocked it remotely, using the same electrical trick. The door opened. She moved quickly. For 65, she was fit. Had to be. Couldn't afford a gym, so she walked. Every day. 5 miles. The cash reserves vault was exactly where Arthur said it would be, and the door was open. Maintenance mode had worked. Margaret started loading bundles of hundreds into her reinforced bag. 6:25 p.m. Arthur's distraction. Upstairs, Arthur clutched his chest and fell. The bank officer, Robert, nice kid, 26, jumped up. Sir, are you okay? Arthur gasped. Margaret had taught him to hyperventilate slightly, to make his lips turn blue. Realistic. Call 911. Robert shouted. Staff converged. Security moved upstairs. Attention diverted. Below, Margaret kept loading. 6:32 p.m., a mistake. Margaret finished loading. $473,000. She counted quickly. Not the full amount, but enough. She turned to leave. That's when she saw him. A security guard. Not supposed to be there. Off schedule. He'd come. Down for something. Coffee break, bathroom, who knows? He stared at her. At the bag. At the open vault behind her. Ma'am, he said slowly. What are you doing? Margaret's training said run, but she was 65. He was 30. With a gun. She did the only thing she could. She talked. I used to work here, Margaret said. 40 years ago. I was an accountant. I helped build the pension fund that's supposed to be in this vault. The guard's hand moved toward his radio. Wait, Margaret said. Please, just listen. Something in her voice stopped him. My name is Margaret Hayes. 5 years ago, Pinnacle Bank stole my pension. $300,000. My entire retirement. It was legal. Corporate bankruptcy loophole. They took everything. The guard's hand hovered over his radio. My husband died last year. Couldn't afford his heart medication. The pension would have paid for it, but the bank took it. Gave themselves bonuses instead. Ma'am, I'm stealing it back, Margaret said simply. Not for me. For everyone they destroyed. Every person in this bag, she gestured, goes back to someone who lost everything. The guard stared at her. My name is Marcus Webb, he said finally. My father worked for Pinnacle's parent company. Lost his pension in the same bankruptcy. He killed himself 2 years ago. Silence. You're robbing them, Marcus said. I'm taking back what they stole. Marcus looked at his radio, at Margaret, at the bag. Then he said something that changed everything. You need to leave. Now. Guard change ends in 4 minutes. Someone will check this level. Margaret stared at him. Go, Marcus said. I was never here. You were never here. Why? Marcus's jaw tightened. Because you're doing what I wish I had the courage to do. 6:39 p.m. exits. Margaret ascended with her heirlooms, heavy bag in hand. The clerk smiled. Find everything okay? Perfect, Margaret said. Upstairs, Arthur recovered. Embarrassed. So sorry. Low blood. Sugar. I'm fine, really. Vincent exited with his cleaning cart. The young security guard nodded absently. They'd done it. They left separately. Reconvened at Arthur's house 30 minutes. Later, the bag sat on Arthur's dining room table. $473,000. We did it, Vincent said quietly. Now the hard part, Arthur said, redistributing it. They'd planned this too. Anonymous bank transfers. Cryptocurrency. Initially, then converted to clean deposits into accounts of former employees. Untraceable. It would take weeks. Careful. Precise. To justice, Margaret said, raising a glass of wine, cheap all she could afford. To justice, Arthur and Vincent echoed. They drank. 3 weeks later, Detective Ray Chandler, returning from season 1, stood in Pinnacle Bank security office reviewing footage. The bank had noticed $473,000 missing, but the footage showed nothing. A glitch. Timestamp skipped. Vault door opened and closed, but no one visible entering. Ghosts? The bank security chief asked. No, Ray said. Professionals. But something bothered him. He pulled up personnel files, found the list of employees who'd lost pensions 5 years ago. Three names jumped out. Arthur Chen, former engineer. Margaret Hayes, former accountant. Vincent Sal, former locksmith. Skills matching the heist perfectly. Ray looked at the dates, started cross-referencing. Then he saw something else. Over the past 3 weeks, dozens of former employees had received anonymous deposits, exact amounts, matching their lost pensions. Ray sat back. The bank was demanding prosecution. Full investigation. Ray looked at the files, at the heist, at the redistribution. Then he closed his laptop. "Detective?" the security chief asked. "No evidence," Ray said. "Footage is corrupted. No witnesses. No leads. Case is cold." "But cold," Ray repeated firmly. He walked out. Because some crimes, Ray Chandler had learned, aren't crimes at all. They're justice. 2 months later, Arthur Chen sat in his living room, reading the newspaper. Page 12, small article. Pinnacle Bank CEO resigns amid shareholder pressure following mysterious pension repayments. Arthur smiled. Vincent called. "You see the news?" "I saw. We did it, Arthur. We actually did it." "Yeah," Arthur said. "We did." Margaret called an hour later. "My granddaughter just got into college. The pension money I got back paid for her first year." "That's wonderful, Margaret." "It's because of us. Because of what we did." "No," Arthur said. "It's because the system failed and we fixed it. Small piece, but we fixed it." That night, Arthur sat on his porch, watching the sun set. They'd gotten away with it. No arrests. No investigation. The bank couldn't admit to theft without exposing their own crimes. The golden hour had worked, but Arthur knew something his partners didn't. He was dying. Pancreatic cancer. Diagnosed 2 years ago. Stage 4. 6 months to live, maybe. He never told them. Didn't want sympathy. Didn't want them to think it was a suicide mission. But it was. He'd planned it all knowing he wouldn't see the consequences. And he was fine with that. Because 438 families got their lives back. Because sometimes the only way to beat the system is to break it. Because in the golden hour between the legal and the just, sometimes old dogs learn the best tricks of all.